time. Welcome back to One Leg at a Time, the podcast about health, wellness, fun, recovery, and music. I'm your host, Dr. Deen Anbar, and I'm interviewing other musicians and creatives about their process, their priorities, and the things that they do to achieve their goals. Dylan Gorenberg.
Hey.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
My brother.
Yeah.
My brother in Judaism. My brother in academia.
Yeah, wait. I'm not a doctor yet. I don't get the...
No, you're not.
No.
Nope. Dylan and I met doing the same doctorate program at USC. So that program was really, really hard, as a doctorate program is going to be.
Yeah.
I feel you. I called it my dissertation to anybody who asked me about it, but it's not really the same thing as a dissertation because it's not a singular large body of work that you're preparing.
Yeah.
It's a few different focuses that you sort of choose in the academic field of music, and that's what you're doing. You're presenting, your sort of mastery of this group of subjects that you chose to study. So what did you decide again?
So, okay, this is where you're doing a doctorate and you didn't even put in like an ounce of thought into like what it might look like.
Yeah.
But so I picked theory and analysis. I thought it was going to be like, oh, I'll get to write songs. We'll do music theory.
That's what you thought that was going to be? That name sounds so masochistic.
And I've basically just taken 4 classes for this academic field that have been like, we're going to talk about music that it uses pitch instruments, so guitars, pianos, violins, whatever, but you play them in a way where you don't make pitches. So like I had to watch someone play a 20-minute piece of them just like slapping a guitar, but not in like the fun way like you see like Andy McKee do.
Sure.
You like in like the like, and I just can't get with it. So
yeah. By the way, we're gonna copyright what you just did. That's now property of One Leg at a Time podcast. Okay. Yeah.
Is it gonna go into my ASCAP account or my union?
We'll get in touch with your lawyers.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds engaging.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good way to put it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Very pragmatic of you.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it was really tough because you brought up a good point. It was really hard to see what the final vision of that doctorate was going to be when you're selecting, these fields.
Yeah.
I couldn't really see past the fact that I had kind of like gotten into this program that I wasn't really sure what I was even doing there in the first place,
That's how most people I feel like who have done our specific program.
Yeah.
You go in and you're like, why am I here again?
Yeah.
But, I have to say, I've felt a bit of, I don't think imposter syndrome is the right word for it, but I'm going to use it right now. Maybe you can help me clarify what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in its own, the program is not hard, but it is the fact that we are now adults having to juggle full-time jobs. And in music, I guess that's one way I call it, a full-time job,
Yeah.
And then while going to school, and as you and I both, you were, and I am right now, like we were assistant lecturers. That's our new title now, actually. Mm-hmm. And
is that what they're calling it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's way better. Actually.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It looks nicer than teaching assistant.
Yeah.
But so we were juggling teaching all these classes, which they paid us nothing for.
Yeah.
I mean, after they take out all the fees and I'm left with rent and that is it. And I'm basically, giving them 30 hours a week in class study, working for them. And now I have to continue my life on top of this. That's what I think makes this program so hard.
You are going to be burning the candle at both ends.
Yes.
There's really no other way to go about doing it. It's a tall order. It was interesting when I talked to, because I spoke to Dylan Gorenberg I guess it was a couple months ago now. And, he kind of had the same thing to say. And when I brought, because I was sort of in your seat saying this to him, and he was just like, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And now I'm hearing you say that, and I'm going, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. the struggle of it is like you can't know until you're in it, and I did not do well. You know?
Oh, I mean, part of the reason why I think you want to talk to me is because I also am not with it.
Well, there's a lot of reasons I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Go back to the imposter syndrome thing, because you didn't really, maybe I just didn't really catch what you meant when you.
Yeah. I mean, one, being in music, imposter syndrome, like crazy.
Always.
But I've learned to cope with that one a little better. I think what gets me is I'm like, I don't think this program is hard. I shouldn't be struggling this much. But it's about the workload balance that I can't keep up. And I don't think that's the right word either, but I'm struggling to keep up with all of I'm a very type A personality person. I am like the guy who is on top of emails. And the last week, for the first time I was sitting, I was like, fuck, I know I have to see. There's another fuck. I know
we should count them. We should have a little,
a little counter.
Yeah.
Counter. And I was like, I know I have to get back to someone, and I couldn't think who it was.
Yeah.
And that's the first time that's happened to me, and that's one thing I feel very like.
If that's the first time that's happened to you in your life,
no,
I wouldn't worry.
No, but it's just, it's like I'm physically drowning in just the amount of things I have to do, whether the load is good or easy or not.
I understand what you're saying. And look, to say that being in music is a full-time job, we're not clocking in and clocking out at 40 hours a week. It's an 80-hour-a-week job.
Yeah.
It really never starts and stops, and it's so irregular. It's normal to feel the way that you're feeling, because how could you not?
Yeah.
When I started the DMA, I also was teaching adjunct at this community college in Riverside.
I'm adjunct in Huntington Beach. Like, yeah.
So 3 days a week I was at USC from like 8 in the morning until 6 p.m.
Sure.
And then the other 2 days a week I was driving 2 hours each way to Riverside County to teach at this school. And at the time...
And let's not take out the fact that we also probably were doing, I am right now, I know you probably were too, we're doing gigs on the weekend, wedding bands, churches.
I was gigging like 4 nights a week.
Yeah, I'm doing, yeah.
So...
You're preaching the choir.
This is what I'm going to say. I don't know if there's a healthy way to take on that amount of work. This was my experience. I was new to LA. Up until that year that I started, I didn't have a lot going on. And right around the same time that I auditioned at USC, and they offered me, this offer I couldn't refuse, assistant lectureship. And also got this job opportunity to teach in Riverside, and also had been hustling for these other gigs, which, actually yielded some great results. I started playing at these bars on weeknights, and I started getting wedding gigs on weekends. All of a sudden, I went from having way too much time and nothing to do to being like plastered with work.
Yeah.
Plastered is a good word to use because, and also was starting to go through a breakup. And there was just my solution to this crisis was I'll get through it with the help of my good friend, powders and pills and chemicals, and I was just like, there's nothing I can't do, but my God, it did that helped me. And I crashed and burned, Yeah. The imposter syndrome for me, it rears its head like this. Going through this stuff, I'm thinking to myself, there's nothing in these classes that anybody else couldn't do. It's just the fact that I did it, right? So what does that do for me? What? Because I took a few classes. Look at the condition that I was in all the way through it. What does that say about the quality of this work, Yeah. But that's so unfair to the institution, because it's like, because the flip side to that is not everybody goes through that. Not everybody pushes themselves through that.
Yeah.
My life would have been a whole lot easier had I not done that. I still would have had the teaching gig. I still would have had the other gigs. But I chose to stick it out. The imposter syndrome is more just like, so what is that? What does it mean to be a doctor of music? I'm still trying to figure it out. My dad even called me out the other day, and we were talking on the phone, and he was just like, why do you have such like a lack of self-confidence about utilizing your credential and like just saying it? That's why I started.
I gotta stop you. Someone
Please
reached
do.
out to me yesterday and about something that I didn't really want to do. And and I was like, okay, yeah. And they said, do you have a degree? I said, I have a bachelor's in music, sure. Left it at that.
You did?
Yeah, 100%.
See, at that point, I think I would have at least said,
Well,
I'm this close to a doctorate. You know?
okay. I knew if I told them that title, it would not just be that one thing. They'd be like, oh, well, you have to do all these other things too. And
okay.
I was just like, I will do this one thing, check, done, nothing else. And
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it at that. But yeah.
See, I think that it's a false advertisement. Again, this is the imposter syndrome speaking. But it's like if I say I'm a doctor of music, it's like that sets up an expectation that it's like, well, what if I can't?
Oh,
you know.
And you know what? Actually, so I played with an artist who I no longer play with, and I got someone new who fully tatted head to toe, and it's valid. They fit the role better.
Sounds
on paper.
like a cool guy.
Yeah, very cool guy. They still hire me to tab out all the music for the guy though, because he can't learn the songs by ear.
I've been in situations like that.
So the guy knew I was going for my doctorate, and he didn't come from a good background, or he didn't grow up in how am I trying to phrase this? Like, it was a hard upbringing.
Sure.
And he resented the fact that I was in this doctorate program for music.
Mm-hmm.
And it made actually performing with them harder because they were having an expectation unattainable.
Yeah.
Where they were like, I remember like before a show, they're like, here, like we have to do like 3 more songs. Here they are. I was like, oh, I haven't heard these songs before. And they're like, you'll figure it out when we're on stage. And then they looked at me and they said, you're starting the song. It's like, oh, I don't know the song. Like, you
Right,
know,
yeah.
I don't even know the chords.
Yeah.
And there was like, you should know better. You know, you have a doctorate.
Well, that sounds like you're getting kind of set up to fail there.
Well,
That
exactly.
seems
But
weird.
it's, you know, it's maybe we're talking about 2 different things, but the false advertising where it's like, just because I have this doesn't mean I'm now, you know, Superman.
I don't know. It really doesn't matter because ultimately at the end of the day, I have it, you're going to have it. I think that the way of the future of being a professional in music, like the model keeps changing. So whereas 10 years ago, you know, maybe the few who got a DMA were essentially like you were going to be next in line to get the kind of teaching job that was a full-time job that you would settle into potentially for the rest of your life. Even that has changed a lot, you know, probably in the last 10 years, where it's like when I think about if I wanted to do full-time academia, I don't think I could do it in LA. It's too competitive. And it's like, if that's not really what I'm into for how I want the rest of my life to go, then I don't know if that's something worth pursuing. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the credential itself can't be used just because it's like, look, the whole point of this podcast is it's not so much that, oh, I'm so knowledgeable about music. It's that I put in that work and I've gone through this thing and I got through it on the other end of it, having had the experience that I had, which was, you know, also just a period of like incredible self-abuse and monumental substance, you know, intake. And that for me was a big part of it. Not to mention the food thing, which I know that we had talking about, so we can get into it. So I don't know. It's still a big question mark, but I think I'm going to just kind of stick to it to at least presenting that, you know, yeah, in this context, like I am a doctor of music. You know, there's nothing it's not worth hiding, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever it does, I don't know. We'll see. And you'll have it too.
Yeah.
You know, Doc.
Yeah. We'll see.
Tell me about yourself. You're from LA.
Yeah. No,
I'm
not from LA.
That's right. I always think that you're from LA, but you're not. You're from the Bay Area.
Yeah, I'm from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in the Bay. Like most people, I think my age, I did school rock, fell in love with music.
Okay.
And my dad was a huge concert goer, huge concert promoter. My mom photographed for Rolling Stone magazine and other really cool magazines for music, essentially.
That's cool.
So, so
you had the image of rock and roll to look up to.
100%. There's a band called Fate's Warning. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
Sounds familiar.
They're like a Dream Theater band, but my
Yeah.
dad was like, he managed them for a hot minute. My uncle did the Yngwie artwork.
Oh my God.
Where, you know the album trilogy with the dragon and the guitar shooting fire?
That's like the one, right?
Yeah, that's my uncle.
Yeah.
I think that's the one he did. Yeah.
Do we ever talk about Dream Theater? You know, that was one of the first bands that I got into when I was like starting to get into
really?
guitar.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
Yeah. Oh man. Dream Theater.
Yeah.
And I remember this because I recently I was listening to The Bends by Radiohead.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the first song, Planet Telex?
Mm.
It has this riff in there that kind of reminds me of the first riff from Scenes from a Memory.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a power chord thing that goes for a shot. Anyway, I just remember that because when I was a kid, you know, Radiohead and Dream Theater couldn't have occupied like different spaces in the world of rock music.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing the similarity between those two things and being like, all music is connected, man. Little hippie kid.
Yeah.
But I was the Midwest version. You were the authentic version.
What can I say?
Yeah.
But parents took me to see Zappa play Zappa. And
Ooh.
it was the very first tour they did where Dweezil brought out all of the
I remember that.
the big heavy hitters like Terry Bozzio and Steve Vai, and that was the moment. I was like, this is for me. I love this. So came down to USC for college. A few months later, my dad got his dream job and my parents followed. So they live in Hollywood now. And I live in Sherman Oaks. And so we're very close, but yeah.
So maybe that's why I thought.
Yeah, a lot of people think I'm from, because my family is here too. Yeah.
Well, that's nice. It's nice to have the support of your family nearby.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was because my family is all split up in different places now. Sure. And that is one thing that I kind of do lament a little bit. It's like, man, you know, it's always nice to have people around. But
yeah.
Cool. So you started playing, you did School of Rock. Did you ever have like a jazz period, or was jazz something that you kind of came into because it was just offered at the academic level?
No, I mean, it was even sillier than that, I think. It was, I could either be in jazz band for high school for a period, or I'd have to take math again. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, okay.
So it was like, I'll learn jazz so I could play guitar in school.
But it never really resonated with you like that?
No, I mean, I love it just because I love music and I love guitar and I find something, but it's not, in here, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. I can see, if a couple of things had been just a little bit different for me in the way that I grew up, I could easily see that being the case. Yeah. It just so happened that when I was in that like super impressionable period and I was bit by this hippie bug. So I remember seeing Phil Lesh and Friends, and then John Scofield comes out.
Yeah.
Blew my mind. I was like, who is this guy? And then that just got me into his whole thing. And beyond like the Uber Jams and the Medeski, Martin and Wood stuff, I just was also listening to his like hard bop stuff and got really into it, and that kind of was one of the first things that blew that door open. Oh. So, yeah. Cool. Yeah. And I would assume that the fact that I actually, studying jazz in school seemed less like a chore because it was something that I really saw for myself. Like there was a good couple of years where I pictured myself as being a jazz guitar player in a very orthodox way.
Yeah, playing smalls every night kind of vibe.
If I, were to have been so lucky, yeah. Yeah.
How do you do with like cheese and dairy? Like, because
are you asking me as a Jew or as a person who had a food problem?
Oh, both.
Both. As a Jew, I have a surprisingly good stomach.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Considering that I come from a group of people who have historically suffered from dietary issues, I'm not really one of them.
I had one cheese stick yesterday.
Congratulations.
And I fully hotboxed my car and farts.
Okay. Maybe Lactaid?
No.
What is the thing that people take?
I just, it's who I am, I feel like. Just embrace it.
I mean, for you.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. The thing is, the way in which I've had to exercise restraint with food isn't a direct result of like, oh, if I do this, I'm going to be in the bathroom or like be suffering that kind of a way. It's more just like from having been heavy and like really, I mean, okay. I'll say this. In times of crisis, food is as much a drug for me as drugs.
Yeah, it gives. It's the. I mean, I don't smoke weed much anymore, but I do every once in a while, and it's the same thing. In a time of extreme stress for me, they give me the same.
Well, see, if you're somebody who can smoke weed and actually like chill on it, I mean, good for you. I would just get so paranoid, like especially as I got older, trying to be a weed person is like impossible, you know. And I found myself smoking a ton of weed because I felt like I had to, because otherwise, I don't know. I just maybe it's I don't know what it is, but fundamentally, it wasn't good for me, you know. And I kind of forced it for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm also
not
like,
heavy. I will say, like, I can't like function on it. That's a weird way to phrase that, but like, I'm not going to like smoke some weed and go to the grocery store. It's like,
I mean, people do that.
Yeah, but that's not me. Like, that's like, it's only at nighttime. Like, I'm in my house. Like,
I wonder about people like that, because I wonder how much of it is like, is it really that they are just like totally unaffected in that sense? Is it that they are just not living to a potential that they could be?
Yeah.
Is there, you know, but also there's no judgment on my end. It's more of just kind of a curiosity.
Yeah.
You know? But weed is weed, and I also like, I don't like my thing isn't like, oh, you shouldn't do anything. I think if something is working for you, like you're good, you know? Yeah. I will say though that weed made it a lot harder to not overeat.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a connection there.
Yeah, 100%.
And I mean, and the thing of being like too much drugs, too much drinking, too much food, like it's just so happened that they were all sort of interconnected.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It made it a lot easier to see how much of a food problem I had when I stopped doing drugs, but was still just like eating terribly, you know?
Listen, in my situation I'm in right now, when I get extremely stressed and I'm 4 carats in and it's like I'm done, it's just like I have to like just face myself in the mirror with my like stress and anxiety, like, fuck, how do I like handle this now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
Tears. No, but you know what's funny is I don't even have an answer for you. I'm just trying to be blunt with you. I'm not gonna try to lie or sugarcoat it. Like, I mean,
that's not the point.
Yeah.
You know.
I was this is really vulnerable, but there was a point. I've been having a rough time at school recently for a few reasons. Not even the workload. I have it's just, I have a professor who I kind of have beef with, and he's really taking the power dynamics a little too far with me. Mm-hmm. I've been struggling a lot with him, especially just like in my last semester. Like, he's not making it easy. But there was again, being very vulnerable, there was a day where it was like, because of the medicine I'm on, I can't go to my coping mechanisms. Yeah. And I just kind of like sat on my floor, on my carpet, no sound, nothing, just stared at a wall for what felt like 30 minutes. It was probably 5 on paper, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I was just like, this feels like my equivalent of like, I am at a low, right? This is hard. Yeah. I can't, like, I don't know how to cope with this. I can't even go to my coping mechanism even if I wanted to. And yeah.
But that's, wait, just to clarify, I mean, if you don't want to say, you don't want to say.
No, we can talk about it.
What's so the medicine you're on?
Yeah. So I have struggled with binge eating, overeating my entire life. I've yo-yoed in weight like crazy my entire life. It's a very hard thing. It does run in the family. And I had gained a lot of weight, and it was mid-doctorate, probably like 2 years in. And it was kind of like I had just gone through a really rough breakup with someone who I really thought I was going to be with for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it felt like rock bottom for me. Big picture, it wasn't that bad, but at the time it was very hard. And I just couldn't get this in control. And I decided to take a leave of absence from school for a year to get my life together.
I did that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. It was really good. I was going to therapy sometimes twice a week, and I was exercising. I was getting my life back on track, and I thought, okay, time to finish this program out.
Yeah.
And at the time, I had probably, I don't want to exaggerate, but I want to say I dropped like 50 pounds. I feel like it was a good number. It was a good number.
Yeah.
And I went back for the doctorate, and I put on 35 pounds.
Yeah.
Like what felt like overnight.
It's easy to do.
And it felt like all my progress went out the window. And the thing I noticed is when that happens, it's so demoralizing to try to start over. That is the hardest thing.
It's always the hardest
because I'm like, I just failed at this.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point in starting over.
Yeah.
Like, and the thoughts that go through your head, like, they're hard, but it's like, I'm a failure. Like, I fucked that up.
Sure.
And so it got a little worse, and I sat down and I had a heart-to-heart, and it was like, how do I, we talked about this on the phone a little bit. It's like, how do I, and we'll see. I'm very curious to see what happens with myself when I'm done in what's now 4 weeks. But it's like, how do I survive to get through this program? And the conclusion I came to is like, let's try Ozempic, because if I'm on this medication, it'll be like a safety net, where if I fall off, and I've had some moments actually in the past few weeks, because it's been very hard recently, and it was one of those things where like, I'm not coping correctly, but it's like I haven't lost the crazy way like a lot of celebrities maybe have when they're on this medicine, but I'm staying neutral, which is really important for me right now. Yeah. And it also, like, I don't wake up feeling that horrible groggy sensation, and so it's truly like, I know there's a stigma behind it, but it's really been a lifesaver, if you will. I don't know what to call it that, but it's been really special for me.
No, you can absolutely call it that. Listen, man, you're not alone in any of this.
No.
And I have so much that I relate to you on, because I remember there was, I don't remember how long ago it was, but I had taken about a year off of that program also to get my life together. And I remember you were, I think, toying with the idea of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, in hindsight, I can say this confidently: you don't toy with the idea of taking a leave of absence from your program when things are going great. Yeah. Like, I was in a crisis coming out of one. You were obviously going through something deeply tough.
Yeah.
When I had my slip up after my first, because I went to rehab twice, and the first time, it was over a summer period, and I got clean for real for like the first time in a long time, and it was really, really hard, and I didn't give myself any grace period. I just went into the USC program, going, I'll figure it out as I go. It'll be fine. Some crazy shit happened, and I slipped, and I fell hard.
Yeah.
100% I relate to you. The starting over, the feeling of failure was probably, in my mind, mentally and emotionally worse. Man, the amount of beating myself up I did when I had to go back, do a second round of detox in 6 months, like, I guess it was a little bit longer than 6 months, but it's not even the point. It was like, I really felt like a failure, and it was that point was where I was like, I need to heal. I need to take some time away from this and work on myself. It's interesting to hear you say that you don't have your coping mechanisms, because you were talking about your sort of learned, if I eat this thing or this way, right? Like, this is my medicine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's kind of fucked up to have the stigma about Ozempic, because in such a real way, it's like, okay, I've gone through that too. I had to take away, like drugs were my muse, my vice, my one true love.
Yeah.
Like as long as I had what I needed, like nothing could really bother me because I was set. You take that away, the core of who I was as a person was gone, and like that was really, really hard. And I had to go through that process a bunch of times, like that last time was the hardest that, it ever felt. So I feel you when you say that, because a food issue, when I had to like,
and you actually, I remember when we were talking on the phone, what was it, last week? 2 weeks ago, maybe?
Something like that.
You said something to me that was, it really like helped me, that I never heard someone say before. And I don't think you realized it, but you said, it's really hard because when you get off, from what you told me, you said when you got off drugs, it's easy to go, not easy, but it's easy to say, I am not doing this anymore. It is out of my life.
Yeah.
I got to eat every day. I got to eat to live.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
With the Ozempic. It gives you a chance to rehabilitate yourself in a way that you can't really do if you have a drinking or a drug problem, because you still have to eat. You still have to figure that out.
Yeah.
The whole thing about like, I wonder if I'll ever be able to drink in moderation or do drugs in moderation. Like, you got to eat one way or another.
Yeah.
I still struggle with that. After my thing with food was I used Noom, which is like a calorie counter app.
Yeah.
And I did that when I started to realize, it dawned on me at about like 4 months of sobriety that I was eating myself into the same type of oblivion that I got from doing drugs. Domino's pretty much every day. I would get a whole pizza and the cheese bread and the lava cake. That was my order.
Sounds wonderful.
And I would take it down. Okay. That in addition to everything else that I was eating, like that was just, I was eating like 6,000 calories a day.
Sure.
I didn't even realize what a calorie was at that point. I just was eating, anything I wanted. And I gave myself a pass because it was just like, whatever, it's fine. I'm in pain. Right. And then I realized this is actually holding me back in a big way from feeling good, And so I started to do a little bit of working out, but I realized that wasn't really doing anything. It's not that it wasn't doing anything, but that wasn't the core of the issue. Like there wasn't a way that I was going to elliptical my way out of this, food hole that I was in. And so it made me confront this. And what I realized at the core of it was that the way that I treat food is the same way that I treat any other substance in my life, which is that I hide my emotions in it, So that was a big wake-up call for me. So I was pretty lucky in a sense that I tackled that right around in that same window of time that I was also sort of getting over the hump of the worst of, or maybe the most challenging part of my early sobriety, which was just like discovering who I was as a new person in this new way of life, and really committed to that.
So I want to ask you a question that you avoided last time I asked you this, and now there's no going back.
Oh my God.
But I asked you this and you said, I don't really know. Have you noticed your work has changed as a musician from then and now? And the reason I ask this is because music is, it's a very visual thing a lot of times. You look cool, you don't always have to be the best player to maybe get the job when it comes to music.
Sure.
And I don't know if they correlate, but it's been heavy on my mind, and it makes me feel weird a lot of times, because when I think of the 2 times in my life I have been the busiest musically, both the times I've been down a shit ton of weight. I don't know, again, I don't know if they correlate, but it really, again, they could be super irrelevant to each other, but it really fucked me up in my head last year because I was not working at all when I had put all the weight back on.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to, and I'm so thankful for everyone who has given me opportunities and sent me their way recently. I've put off maybe 25, 30 pounds.
I mean, you look great.
Thank you.
You look the best I've ever seen you.
But I'm also now working more than I have. I've probably done more work in the beginning of this year since I did all of last year.
Well, that's work that you deserve.
And I appreciate it. But I'm, you know what I mean? It's in my head
I do.
sometimes. I'm like, so I'm curious. It could be
I have
related.
an answer to this question, which is kind of a non-answer. But what I'm curious about is why does it matter to you what my answer would be?
Because you went through something similar. So I'm curious if you've had.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, that's
because
fair.
you know, I guess with me, there's another level of guilt on top of that.
What's that?
Well, because it is, I just binge ate. Not only am I messing with like my health, but I'm also ruining my career right now. I'm like self-sabotaging my career.
I think about that every time I eat too much.
Yeah.
You know, but I also have like, I still can fall into like a body dysmorphic trap and, you know, really beat myself up when I look in the mirror. Do I find myself getting more calls since I've managed to drop some weight? Maybe not. I'm not really sure. It's not an easy question to answer because it's hard for me to really know or like comprehensively be aware of how much I'm working doing gigs compared to how much I was. And also, I've been trying to be a little bit more deliberate about what gigs I'm doing versus which I'm not
taking.
Yeah.
That's a whole other conversation in its own.
It is a whole other conversation in its own. I'll say this, and I'll be vulnerable with you because you've done me the honor of being vulnerable with me. When I have noticed in myself a tendency, if I'm feeling overconfident, to maybe act like an asshole. And like, if I'm doing a gig where it's like a bigger band and the stage is like, you know, for example, like a corporate gig or a wedding gig, like I'll like demand that I not be behind the horns. You're like, no, you got to have guitar in front of the horns, right? Like, look at me, look at how good I look. You can't have me behind the horn section. It's like, and then I'll look back at how I act in the moment. Even sometimes I'm just like, what am I doing? Why am I acting like this? You know, like, and sometimes I'm able to catch myself and sometimes I'm not. So then sometimes I'm like, maybe I'm not getting called back for certain gigs because I'm like, you know, just a little too overzealous with my attitude. I don't know.
I would like to also say, I don't think any of this is a self-conscious thing. I don't think anyone has ever been like, Dylan's losing some weight, now it's time to call. I don't want to say that at all.
Yeah, I don't think that most people think that way.
No, not at all.
I think we, as the people who are on this side of the mirror, are the ones who, you know, put so much of our value on how round or not round we look.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying for myself, I can say that.
I mean, but I've also had moments where I got asked, how do I phrase? I did an audition for something, and I got a message back from the MD that basically said, we would love to have you. You're the right person for the job, but you don't look the part. And
well, what was the gig?
It was a tour through Australia.
With who? Kanye? Because you know we don't.
Did you see the?
It.
Oh my god!
I was gonna say, brother, no gig is worth that.
Yeah. No, and you know, but jokes aside, like you're probably right. It's probably the wrong thing for me, but to get that, that's not good.
That's gonna be a gut punch, no matter when it comes or who it comes from.
Yeah.
And that sucks, man. I mean, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's fine.
All I could say on this chair, right, looking at you, is just like, clearly wasn't the right gig for you. Like, so.
No, of course.
You know, you gotta be okay with letting those kinds of things go.
Yeah.
But for that reason, it's gotta be tough.
I want to say though, it's still a prominent thing, I think, in the industry, whether people want to admit it or not.
I think that's pretty. I think people know it.
I don't think people want to admit it though.
I've had people, I'm not going to say who it was, but not that long ago, I ran into somebody who I knew from several years ago, and we ran into each other in a very cool place, and he saw me and he goes, oh, I didn't even recognize you. I'm like, hey, yeah, well, here I am. And he was just like, man, you look so great. He goes, you know, it's so true. Like, you're going to get gigs because you look like this now. Like, it doesn't even matter that you can play. Like, you know, and I was just like, first of all.
And thank God you look like this now because I've heard you're playing and you really need this.
I was just like, Okay, but like I don't think that I'm gonna get any gigs. I don't know. Maybe but it's one of those things where you're just like, you're kind of saying the quiet part out loud right now. Like, just I don't know. So what? I don't know. I also don't do. The only reason I did that stuff, the only reason that I started working on myself physically, was because it helped me through, again, a really rough period, right? Which it was breakup related, it was sobriety related, and I really found myself, and like this is a real thing for me. Again, the vulnerability of saying this. I don't know how it's going to read. I've never really been good at articulating this. For me, any action that I could do for myself physically felt like a gratitude action, because it was just like, if I can, I will, because I was so sick for so long or so heavy for so long. Like, if I can push it another half a mile, or if I
my God. I remember when I ran my first 5K, and it was like,
what a feeling.
I know for everyone else, it was like, I remember going home, I was like, I am the fucking shit right now.
What can't you do after
I know.
That?
And like I was like, and you know what? Show up to gigs. I was just like,
I know.
It's like, I get that.
And then, and before, what I was saying is I can swing that pendulum the other direction, where all of a sudden I'm acting like a brash asshole, and maybe not getting the call back, but maybe not. Somebody else was saying something really valuable about this too, which was that, in LA, like, people call you only if they need you, not if they want you. Like, loyalty is sort of hard to come by. Like, you can never really trace that in a real way. You may never get a straight answer, and it's better not to overthink that. Like, you just sort of like do what you do, and So I just try to do my best, honestly. Like, I'm far from a perfect person. And the hard thing about doing this podcast, or it's not hard about doing the podcast, but the misconception, I think, would be that I'm having these conversations coming from some place of, I've attained, the only thing I've attained is having overcome the worst of the symptoms of like drug addiction and food addiction. I'm not a perfect person. I do my best, and I at least have the gift of being able to sort of inventory my actions, but that's it. Okay, so being on what is it that you're on exactly? Are you on Ozempic?
It's like a offshoot, but
Okay.
Yeah.
What's that like? I mean, now that because I've only heard stories, but I'm curious.
Coming from someone who's done basically forms of diets his entire life, I think a lot of the adjusting wasn't that hard, because I've been used to all of a sudden putting all these restrictions on myself. In a sense. So what I mean by that is, a big part of it, as you probably can see, I drink a lot of water. You have to drink a lot of water, and you have to have a lot of protein intake.
But those are just good things to do for your diet, period.
True. What
happens if you don't do those things while you're on Ozempic? That would be different from if you weren't on it.
Good question. The hard parts will be, you can't tell in my experience at least, it's hard to tell sometimes if I'm hungry or if I haven't had enough protein. Like, I can't tell the difference between the two.
Interesting.
So, and my experience, sometimes when I just haven't had enough protein, so I'll try to eat protein, and then it gets hard. Then you start to, the feeling where you're like, you've binged too much.
Yeah.
It's like that, but I would say like tenfold sounds like an exaggeration, but it's up there.
No, but if it's enough that you're actually thinking about it, I mean, that's that's something.
So, but it's just kind of, I mean, I know this is what they say in all like the ads, whatever, but it's just like, it's like you might eat half a turkey sandwich and you're good, versus like I could eat 4 turkey sandwiches before.
Yeah.
It has helped me not think about food a lot, which I think has been really important for me.
Yeah. Food noise, right?
Yes.
I never heard that term before.
I've never heard that either, but I really like that, food noise.
I like it too.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me like maybe the equivalent of like when an addict experiences the phenomenon of craving, which is like this voice that you can't really turn off until you satisfy it.
Yeah.
And the only way, so this is the thing about craving that's really interesting. It only really gets started when you start it. I don't have craving right now. Yeah. I'm not thinking about anything like that. If I were to go and pop something, it would be maybe an hour, maybe a day. I would have awoken a beast inside of me. Yeah. Right? I would assume that there's a parallel there. You know
what's funny is I'm going to use that word now, the food noise. Yeah. I only really get that in these moments of high stress I've been in with school. Yeah. Where it's like, oh my God, I just finished teaching at 8 p.m., went to a gig, I just got home at midnight, I have a paper due at 7 a.m. Yeah. Let's pop a Red Bull and go. And now 3 a.m. hits and the food noise kicks in. Yeah. Outside of that, I mean, it's not as apparent as it would be in other times.
How do you prepare for those eventualities? You know, because there has to be a certain amount of planning, right? Or do you?
For like the school stuff?
Well, what I'm asking is like, how do you prepare for it? How do you prepare for a day where you're going to be out? Do you meal prep? Do you bring stuff with you? Because I would imagine in your specific circumstances, I do this when I know I'm going to be out on a day where I have multiple things to do or a long gig. I'll bring a little bag with like some fruit, a protein bar, a couple of bottles of water, just stuff so that I'm not hitting that hanger point or like where I just am setting myself up to then binge eat and then feel terrible about myself.
Well, especially with the medicine now, like I keep a box of protein bars in my trunk. I keep a box of protein shakes in my car. Those have been my lifesavers.
That's huge.
Every morning, the coffee, I don't even know the brand, Power, whatever it is, protein shake, cup of coffee, and it's like 18 grams of protein.
Was it the Fairlife?
No.
I've never had it. I always see it. I don't know.
It doesn't matter. But
we don't want any freeloading sponsors on this ad either. Yeah, exactly. You want us? One leg at a time can't be bought, baby.
That's not true, actually. It can be bought.
Oh no, it can be bought. Did I say can? I meant can. Yeah. Go on. I now pronounce this podcast for sale.
So in those ways, I do prep. Now, the interesting thing is when it comes to the schoolwork, I will look at my calendar sometimes, and I'm very thankful to have gotten and be booked, and as much as I am recently. Yeah. And I'm like, again, I wake up every day just like thankful that I get to do music for a living.
It's a blessing.
It is. It is a true blessing. Sometimes I will look at my calendar and go, there is no way I'm going to be able to start this paper any way I swing. Like, I am just basically walking into the guillotine. Yeah. Like, there is no free day to do the paper. And sometimes it's one of those moments too where I'm going to say, even if I know I have a day here, it's like I just worked 15 days straight. And when it comes to it, it's like I've gotten better at just being like, I don't want to work a 16th day doing this paper. Yeah. I'm going to sit in my bed and watch 3 episodes of Abbott Elementary and just be happy about it. Yeah. And so to answer your question, I know this isn't ideal. Sure, you could talk to someone and say you should find a way because life will, whatever, I don't care. But
there's no shoulds here,
yes, but I'm truly just getting through the next 4 weeks. It is going to be a rough 4 weeks, and I'll get the finish line, and you will take me out for a sandwich afterwards.
If that's what you want.
Yeah. Listen, I could take a back rub.
Okay, all right. We'll cross that bridge. Yeah.
Actually, I don't think I want that from you.
Well,
I don't think it would
no
be...
take backs.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Well, all right.
Okay.
Can I spin
I'm going to have you spin the wheel.
Yes.
While the wheel is spinning,
what's up?
this is what I would say to you to try your best to focus on.
Yeah.
Don't focus on the big picture. The nice thing about school is the big picture is taken care of. You don't have to worry about... All you have to do is do this thing that they're asking you to do. You, in order to get through this 4 weeks without wanting to blow your head off all the time, is not worry about the totality of the 4 weeks. 4 weeks will come and go. Yeah. You know, you exactly like you were saying, you wake up in the morning, you just do what you got to do that day. Yeah. Like some days are going to be really tough because you have more work to do than other days. it just is what it is.
Yeah.
But like, there's a really, it's a total cliche. It's like the number one cliche that everybody knows from every 12-step meeting, the one day at a time thing.
Yeah.
If you're worried about the whole 4 weeks at a time, it feels like too much. Nobody can take this on.
Yeah, it's exactly.
You don't
I can get through tomorrow.
You can get through. Don't even worry about tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, you're here right now in this beautiful studio.
That's so true.
You ready to hear your question?
Yeah.
Dylan, this is the one. I'm so happy you got this. What do you believe holds you back from being where you want to be?
Oh my God. I don't like that.
I do.
Can you ask that one more time?
What do you believe holds you back from being where you want to be?
I know there's a word for this and I can't think of it.
Okay.
It's I guess it's like fear of failure. And the reason I say it is because the hardest thing for me is to start something. The hardest thing, truly, and I have procrastinated with actually going back to what we talked about earlier, binge eating by doing this. If I can open a Logic session, I will record you 40 tracks right now. To open that Logic session is the hardest thing ever.
Yeah.
Because getting to that point, I'll be like, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Or the worst one that I need to get over is like, this already exists. Like, I've been getting really into writing music for film trailers recently, and it's been a lot of fun. I've been writing a lot of tracks.
That's awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Knowing you and the music that you like, I feel like you'd be very good at that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where before I go, I'll try to open Logic. I'm talking like clicking that little icon.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, there's so many tracks and libraries that already exist. Why should I bother? I should go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then I don't do it. And then, and I'll sit there for, it's embarrassing to say, but it's true. Like, I'll sit there for an hour, like, finding ways, like, I gotta, like, respond to this person, or I really should do my laundry right now. And it's procrastination to just not get started. And once I get started, flow state kicks in, life is good, and I will put something that I'm really happy with.
In the second half of that question is, where do you want to be? So I guess what do you see for yourself? Which is a good thing to articulate as a freelance musician, because a lot of times we can get really just kind of stuck in the day-to-day of we go from gig to gig to gig, and all of a sudden it's like, well, what's the bigger picture? What am I really after?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. One of my favorite guitar players is a guy named Tosin Abasi, and he's in a band called Animals as Leaders. They're this, like, I guess, progressive metal band. And I remember they asked him the same question in the interview. It was maybe phrased a little different, but it was like, what were moments in your career that you were like, things are changing, if you will? I don't think that's the right way to phrase that, but like, things are, improving.
Yeah.
And he said, it's hard to say, there wasn't any one moment that changed my life. And
it's cumulative, huh?
Yeah, it's a very cumulative thing. And that question really freaks me out, because it's like, how to answer that question, it's like, well, maybe I'm not aiming high enough, but I think I would just like to be doing more of what I do now, maybe at a higher level. I'm teaching at a college right now that makes me really happy. I would, we've talked about this a lot, but full time, hi, how are you? Like, would love that.
Right.
But so maybe something like that. But yeah, be more confident on my instrument. That's where I'd like to be. Be happier as a musician. Yeah. Happier with the music I write. Because I write music. I would want to be writing music more later on. So you're right, though. It's cumulative, and it's hard to quantify, like, I would like to work for this company, or I'd like to do this, because I don't think I have that. What would your answer be?
There's so many ways to answer this question, and the way that I would answer the question is largely based on what might be going on in any given time. You hit on a really important deficiency of mine, which is the inability to start things. I'll just say this because I also have an inability to finish things, but I'll focus on the inability to start things. Yeah. And it's largely mentally the same things that you're talking about that prevent you from doing it. It's the internal chatter of like, well, why me? Why is the thing that I'm doing that already it exists? Like, there's no reason for me to have to do it. Like, this sucks, or any number of things. And then the focusing on other things, even though I know that I kind of want to do this, not kind of, I want to start this thing, but there's a lot of, it's a fear of the unknown but to what you're saying, 90% of the time, once you start it, you started it, and you're going, and then there's the other thing of like finishing it and sort of like doing the work to kind of get it fleshed out for public consumption. Why is that? I'll say this. In the early days of this podcast, which we're in, why start a podcast? Why? There's a billion of them. Gavin Newsom has a podcast now.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I mean, it's just never ending, the amount of content that's being put out into the world by people who are way better known than me, So why am I doing this? And I think about it and I'm like, I'm doing it because I think that this is stuff that's worth talking about, and I get a lot out of it. And I want to put it out into the world. So here's the thing. So I'm kind of resolute in this attitude where I'm like, no, I like the idea. This is not my bread and butter. I'm a musician, but like I have this concept and I want to see it through. Now, if I want to see it through, what is it about this that's gonna be different? Do
you find this easier than a music project because your self-worth isn't tied to it in the same way? Because for me, for example, when in the past, like if I've gotten asked to play like piano on something, and they know I'm not a piano player, but they're like, yeah, just like play it for us.
Yeah. It's
so easy and it's fun because my self-worth isn't, and it's something I'm trying to disconnect, but it's not.
Who's asking you to play piano on stuff? No one's asking me to play piano on stuff. Yeah, okay. So I don't know.
No, but but
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
It's different. It's challenging in a different way. The act of doing it is challenging in a different way. It's a very, I'll say this, you're familiar with the Dunning-Kruger curve?
I am not.
The Dunning-Kruger curve is like, so when you start something.
I know nothing.
Yeah.
I know nothing.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. I'm on the I know nothing of I just started it and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I've also put in a lot of time working on another craft, and I'm confident that it doesn't have to reveal itself right now. If I just keep doing it, something is going to happen.
Sure.
I'm not so arrogant as to think that right now these are like I'm at my best doing this.
Yeah.
But I also am not. I'm not gonna let the lack of self-worth, or I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but like I'm not gonna let my noob status stand in the way of just continuing to put the effort in. And we'll see where it goes. But it's valuable to me. I don't know. Yeah. And I'm sort of at a point now where it's just like I think age has something to do with it too. Because now I feel like if I don't do this now, I mean, I might die today. I don't know. Like, no, it just seems like this is the time to do it. Because if I don't do it, it's never going to happen. I started writing new music a couple of months ago now, but like I've been working on this music. It doesn't change my internal monologue. I still think I suck a lot of the times, but I'm trying a lot more to like recognize that voice and just push it away and just focus on the act of doing the thing. And then like, because again, if not now, then when, Do you want to play a game?
Yeah.
Okay. Introducing your college.
Okay, no, I'm with it.
Okay. College music faculty fantasy draft.
Okay, I'm so sorry, Steve Travado. You're getting kicked to the curb.
Okay, here's the rules. There are no rules.
Right.
No, there are rules. Let's pick. I was thinking 5 initially.
Okay.
Let's say we'll each pick 5 people to be on our dream college music faculty, alive or dead.
Okay.
You go first.
What?
You want me to go first? I can go first.
Are we alternating?
Yes.
Yeah, we're drafting.
Oh, okay.
You get 5 people. All right, you're first. Who's your first draft pick?
Robert Fripp.
Robert Fripp. Okay. I'm choosing.
Do I have to pick the department too?
No, not necessarily. I mean, it's pretty obvious what Robert Fripp would do.
Department of guitar, department chair of music school.
Okay, department chair. Your chair is Robert Fripp. I'm picking Johnny Greenwood just because I think he looks really cool when he hangs his head down and his hair goes over his face.
Have you heard his arrangement of Electric Counterpoint?
I don't have to hear it.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I bet that sounds sick.
It's so cool.
I've been on a little bit of a Radiohead kick today.
Oh.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you haven't heard Electric? No, I'm just okay.
I was listening to the bands.
Okay. Number 2 would have to be Frank Zappa. He's like my guy. I feel like he'd be a great composition teacher. I'd probably have to spend a little more money on HR, but I think he would really.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. How about this? I'm choosing Frank Sinatra. Yeah, in the department of keeping it cool.
I can't wait to see your faculty recital.
Yeah.
Oh, Alan Holdsworth.
Holdsworth?
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
I'll go with Holdsworth.
So you got some real
Heavy hitters.
you got some real guitar guys on your podcast. What are we doing again?
Hogwarts.
It's been a long day. You got Hogwarts is Shred University.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Who do I want? I want you know what? I'm taking John Mayer.
Good for numbers.
Yeah.
Smart move.
Thanks. Songwriting.
You know what? I'm going to say this, and I don't even know his real name, so it feels fake, but I really want Bon Iver.
Oh, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, no one's going to know his real name anyway, so if you want those numbers up, it's better to list him by his stage name.
That's true.
Yeah. Bon Iver is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I like that. Ooh, you know who I want? I want the LCD sound system guy, James Murphy.
Oh.
Yeah. He just seems like a cool guy to hang with. And I could see a room of Johnny Greenwood, Frank Sinatra, James Murphy, and John Mayer.
Mix afterwards.
Well, that he could be your final pick.
Nah, he's not my final pick.
No?
No.
This is it. It all comes down to this one. Oh, and then afterwards, our producers can decide which of our schools they would want to go to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have any drummers. I don't have any drummers.
Drum machine. You know what? I can't think of anyone. Pat Metheny.
Pat's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big weirdo.
Yeah. Too many guitar players on my
numbers are
faculty.
going down. Okay, you want to know who I want for my 5th?
Yeah.
Animal from the Muppets.
Wait a minute. Oh, hold up. Wait a minute. Oh, that changes everything.
I mean,
Pat
producers?
Metheny.
Who's
Pat Metheny's going out the door for me. Goodbye, Pat Metheny.
It's too late. You gave him a contract. He's got tenure.
He's adjunct. I'm firing him at any time.
Whose school do you want to go to, Hogwarts or Durmstrang? We got Animal.
One for Hogwarts.
Zappa, you can't.
Since there's no women,
Ooh,
neither.
All right.
That's so valid.
I forgot.
You know who I really want on faculty, actually? I really want Sabrina Carpenter. I love her album.
Really?
Yeah, I would take her over Pat Metheny. I could, honestly, you could probably needle drop that album for me. I could probably.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I got to be real with you. It didn't captivate me, but there are other very strong female figures in music.
That's not why I picked her.
Into.
I just like her
I'm
music.
I'm saying this because this podcast is inclusive.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm so mad, actually. Hold on. Rewind.
Yeah.
I want, as my 5th person, Breakins. He is a hyper pop artist. On my Spotify Wrapped, my top 5 songs were all from the same album from him. I'm obsessed with him, and I'm so mad I didn't think of him.
Okay, I don't know who that is, so you'll have to send it to me afterwards. All right, there's one more thing you have to do. This episode is unhinged. You have to look into the camera, Dylan, and say, I put my pants on one leg at a time.
Hi. Wait, do I say my name too? Like, hi, I'm Dylan Gorenberg, and I put my pants.
If you want.
How do you do it?
You just look at the camera and you say, I put my pants on one leg at a time.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dylan Gorenberg, and I put my pants on one leg at a time.
You heard it here first, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.